Hello, I'm Monsignor Charles Minor.
I'm Father Joe Glass. Welcome to Reel to Reel.
It's nice to be back, Father Joe. I missed being with you for the last couple of weeks.
I miss you when you're not here. I have to work harder when you're not here, Monsignor.
Well, Jane doesn't make you work any harder, does she?
No, and Jane's away now. We should admit, it's been a while since the three of us have been together, but Jane is just on vacation, not sick or anything like that.
Well, I'm glad to be saying I'm not sick. I have not been. Some of my friends thought I was ill since I was missing the last couple of weeks. With some family projects we had to take care of, and they worked out well, thank God.
Good to have you here, and glad you're healthy.
I am, thank God. You know, on Reel to Reel now, we have some interesting things to tell you. One is going to be on Our Lady of Guadeloupe, one of my very favorite devotions, and the other is going to be an interesting interview with Father Fran Meehan, who has something special to tell you.
And I'll be interviewing Sister Mary Louise Sullivan. Just when you thought every possible ministry was already going on in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, we have a brand new one affecting the Delaware Valley, and that is the Institute for Ministry to Refugees and Immigrants, and Sister heads up that institute right here at St. Charles Seminary. That's where we tape each week. I don't know if you know that, and I find it very interesting to come across the river from Trenton to the seminary and keep tabs on what's going on here, the numbers of vocations, all that sort of thing.
We oftentimes don't see too many seminarians as we come in and out the building, and it's true because there aren't that many great numbers here. However, there's somebody working on that. It's called Prayer Power. And the great role of Prayer Power is to, as you see in their office work, to get these names off the paper and to people on their knees praying. On any given day, you can see her in the chapel at St. Charles Seminary, kneeling in quiet prayer. For her, to pray is to behold the power to accomplish all things by the will of God. But she also feels that prayer is, all too often, a missing ingredient in our daily lives. She is Peggy O'Neill, founder and director of Prayer Power, a nonprofit corporation with an unusual prospectus.
Prayer Power is a organization where we get people to come and pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament for vocations and families, and they pray on teams.
A participating Prayer Power location must be able to organize at least 4 teams of at least 8 people per team. Each team is scheduled to meet for adoration at least 1 day a month. On that day, team members are responsible for spending at least 1/2 of an hour in quiet prayer before the exposed Eucharist. Since its formation in October of 1983, Prayer Power has grown to include 4,500 lay people praying at 18 locations in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Operating from offices at St. Charles Seminary in Overbrook, Pennsylvania, Prayer Power continues to grow. Peggy O'Neill recalls how it started almost 5 years ago.
So I would come down here to make my holy hour, and I watched the seminarians each year get less and less and less. And then I went down to Florida to visit my mother. And we used to go to daily Mass. And this one day when we went up to go to Mass, we got up there and the door was locked. And there was a big sign on the door saying, "Sorry, no more Mass, Father is sick." So I started to think, we're in trouble. You know, we need priests. And if we don't start getting vocations, we're going to find ourselves a priestless society. And I felt that praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament, lay people praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament would be the key. And finally I said to 2 seminarians, I told them about it, and we decided to experiment. So for 1 year, we met every Tuesday and prayed for an increase in vocations for 1 hour together in front of the Blessed Sacrament. Just quiet prayer, but we were just there, the 3 of us together. And the vocations went from 8 to 17 the next September.
Spurred on by this success, Peggy set out to organize lay people in the parishes.
We started originally with women. My original idea was wives, thinking, that weren't working. Then I found lots of senior citizens were interested, and I wanted to get the young people interested. So we have high school students, we have some grammar school students, we have senior citizens, we have women, working mothers, young mothers, men. Sarah Group has gotten very involved. I talked every Sunday to Malvern Retreat. Also in the parishes where we are, it's a mix. Lawyers, doctors, mechanics, everybody's involved. I set it up as a corporation instantly, as soon as I started it, actually. And we have a board of directors, and it's getting bigger, and some pretty wonderful people on the board. But, it is set up like a business, and I have a lawyer and accountant from day one.
In addition to running the office and writing articles for Prayer Power's monthly newsletter, Peggy is often on the road doing what she is best at, recruiting new members.
See, my forte is getting out and talking, seeing people, starting new prayer powers and writing. But I've spent so much time in here, I'm not getting out as much as I want to. Our dream is to see prayer power, if not in every parish, in cluster parishes. Like maybe we'd go into an area and have it in one parish, and then 2 or 3 other parishes would plug into it. We have between 4,000 and 4,500 people involved that are actual praying people. I see the need is very great. And my dream is to have 1 million people involved in it by 1991.
Retired executive Dan Corey was so impressed with Peggy O'Neill that he organized a prayer power chapter in his parish, St. Alice in Upper Darby.
The fact that you are given the opportunity to be exposed in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and the time that's allotted, depending on how much time you want, depending on how many people you're going to have involved, is probably the greatest experience that any Catholic could have. I think the figures would probably tell you, having started in '87 in November, where we had about 187 attend throughout that day period from 8:30 to 4 o'clock, and then winding up with 254 in the month of December. I think there's a growth pattern that we're kind of pleased with.
Our goal for this September is to focus in on the young mothers, because it's really, they're a very important group, and the high school students. We would like to get at least 5 high schools where the students were committing to 15 minutes once a month in prayer before the Blessed Sacrament.
Enlisting today's teens to give up their free time for prayer may seem like a difficult task, but here at Archbishop Prendergast High School for Girls, prayer power is already in full swing, thanks to the efforts of third-year student Maura Kelly.
Well, the first people I talked about it to already knew about it. It was my family, and they became involved like on their own time. And then I went through to Prendy here, and I spoke to the senior and junior classes, and I told them about what I was trying to do with Peggy O'Neill. The way I help prayer power to grow on the high school level is telling my friends about it and asking them to tell someone they know that doesn't know about it, like explaining it to them elaborately, and so that they would really understand what it meant to pray and what prayer does for you, like how Jesus really does come in and help you through your problems. Whether he answers you exactly what you want depends on who you are and what you're asking for, but just to pray for yourself and others as well.
The power of prayer is God working in our life, because the world is God's world, and he wants us to really continue building on his gifts, which is the world. Praying is like exercise. The more you do it, the stronger your faith becomes. And when we're praying for graces and blessings, we always get those prayers answered. You know, maybe not exactly the way we think, but we always get those graces and blessings. And the biggest power of prayer probably is the peace that it brings, and the unity and harmony. And I really believe that if we would pray in faith, we could change this world.
With the mature and the senior citizens, we rely on their powerful prayer. But when you come to young mothers and high school students, now you're talking about a new kind of vitality in prayer. Stay with us now. We have more vitality on Reel to Reel. Since 1981, Reel to Reel has been proclaiming the good news by bringing you stories of Christian faith in action. We do it by roaming the Delaware Valley, searching for people of faith, hope, and charity.
But like all modern media, it is an expensive proposition. If you're a new viewer, or if you've enjoyed Reel to Reel for many years, we'd like to thank you for watching and invite you to participate by actively supporting the show.
With costs rising all around us, we need your financial support. A donation of $5, $10, $20, or whatever you can send will help to keep us on the air.
Send your contributions to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103. And thank you.
Hello, I'm Gary Maddox. When I played with the Phillies, reading the pitcher gave me the advantage. But life is not a game. To give yourself the advantage, you have to be able to read. To get the help you need, call the Mayor's Commission on Literacy at 686-8652. Learn to read. It will change your life.
It's my pleasure to introduce you to Sister Mary Louise Sullivan, who is the director for the Institute of Ministry to Immigrants and Refugees. Sister, welcome to Reel to Reel.
Thank you very much, Father Joe.
Sister, I mentioned at the top of the program, just when you think every possible ministry is going on in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia and in the Delaware Valley, here in April of this year, we start a new ministry in the area, and it's your institute. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how it got going?
Yes. In 1986, the bishops of the United States published a statement, "Together a New People." Certainly this was not the first thing the Church had to say about welcoming the stranger, welcoming the newcomer. The Institute for Ministry to Immigrants and Refugees is a response to this pastoral statement of the American bishops. And while the ministry itself has been going on in the Archdiocese, in multicultural parishes, I think that this is the first effort to organize the resources that are available to teachers, to clergy, to laity, to religious, who are entering this field of working with newcomers, who are simply interested in learning more about the mosaic that is America.
And that's kind of the distinction of your institute, that your ministry is geared to the people you just mentioned, the teachers, the priests, the religious, the lay people of the Archdiocese, and not necessarily the ethnic communities. I think very often when we think of ministry to immigrants and refugees, we think of the legalization process, we think of social services, and your institute is not that kind of a program.
Well, it's both and. It's not a social services organization, it's a pastoral institute, and certainly one of the groups of persons that we're going to be working directly with are going to be newcomers themselves. Our advisory planning committee has Asiatic and Hispanic and European names on it, and we really hope to have programs in the native languages of some of the newcomers that do not have organized ministries. I'm thinking in terms of Laotians, Hmong, Cambodians, Ethiopians.
Mm-hmm. But primarily your institute is geared to people who will be interacting with people of various ethnic backgrounds, wanting to know more about their culture, how to better minister in their parishes to them.
Yes, and to achieve that end, in the fall we're going to be offering a course and another one in the spring on multicultural religious education, which we hope will be helpful to teachers and religious education ministers in the parishes. We also, in an effort to getting to know God's people, are going to mount a series of seminars, both in the fall and the spring, to introduce the faith and cultural heritage of newcomers to people in the pews and the clergy in the pulpit. In the fall, it's going to be Asiatics. We're going to have a mini total immersion experience on Tuesday evenings as we get to know Vietnamese, Chinese, Koreans, and other Asiatic groups. We'll be talking about their history, the history of Christianity and Catholicism in their country, their needs as they see them in this country. We'll have refugees and immigrants themselves telling us their story.
Telling their stories of faith. And
right.
This is great. Sounds like a wonderful way to break down some of the misconceptions and misinformation that's out there about some of these ethnic groups, and to really get into the richness of their heritage and their culture. We should say that your program is open to people not just in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, but you're really making an effort to touch everyone in the whole Delaware Valley.
We try to get our mailings out to Allentown and Camden, to Harrisburg, Metuchen, Trenton, Wilmington. And we've had a good response. At our inaugural program on April 17th, we had more than 400 people. Archbishop Bevilacqua was there. Archbishop Cayley from the Pontifical Commission on Migration was our keynote speaker. We had a beautiful multilingual choir, and when they all came together at the end and sang God Bless America with slightly differing accents, there were some tears in that chapel. I think one of the things I'd like to bring to your attention is that in addition to seminars, again in the spring we'll be dealing more with Hispanics and Africans and Eastern Europeans, we're going to have workshops, and we're going to have spiritual opportunities in the native languages of the newcomers. And one of the things that's going to be helpful to all of the groups that we hope to touch is the Multicultural Resource Room here at St. Charles Seminary. It's beginning right now, and we hope to see it grow. We'll have background information on all of these cultures, on their story of Christianity. We'll have information on American Catholicism and immigration, and most importantly, upon the Church's teaching over the last 100 years on welcoming immigrants. And I say 100 years because it's just about 100 years ago that my foundress, Mother Cabrini, came to work with Italian immigrants. And as St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, she's now known the world over as the patroness of immigrants.
And certainly the patroness of this institute,
That's
I'm sure.
Along with Bishop Newman.
Yes, we couldn't leave him out.
Right here, that's right.
Well, Sister, I thank you for bringing the Institute to our attention, for getting it going here in the Delaware Valley, and for adding to the richness that is very present in the body of Christ by what you're doing, uncovering the great beauty that has been with us for so long and will continue to be with us. Best of luck with the Institute. Thanks for being here. And now back to you, Monsignor.
It's so good to hear about pastoral ministry. When we think of the word pastoral ministry, we think only, say, of Pope John Paul II. And unfortunately, when last week and this week he's touring South America and Bolivia this past week, people think in terms of its scolding. And yet what he's teaching us is the basic and beautiful denominator we have with each other in all nationalities, our human sexuality. It's a beautiful thing to understand it, not as a detriment, but as an openness to new life and the fullness of that life. Father Francis Meehan has something very special to tell us today, how he tries to combine for us the Old Testament and New Testament experience in human sexuality.
Here we are in the middle of springtime already. Traditionally, it's a time for romance, so maybe it's a good time for us to look at the Christian tradition and some of its vision of love and sexuality. You know, it's not an easy thing to address in these places and times, and especially on television in a few minutes. The old saying, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So let's give it a shot. We Catholics have come a long way in the past 30 years. There's been a lot of fun poked at the way the priests and the nuns communicated sexuality, all the things about not wearing patent leather shoes, and I think that was probably a needed reaction. But now we're in a new time. When you think of it, it's not just the 60s, it's almost the 90s. And when you look at what our kids are under, tremendous difficulties, tremendous influence of TV and media and lyrics of songs. The terrible AIDS crisis. Even the secular people are saying we have to teach the young people how to say no. But for Christians, we have to not only learn how to say no, but why to say no. And so we have to go to the church in a new way, maybe, not just the church as a lawmaker from above, but the church as a repository of wisdom from below. The church as an accumulator of human experience. And that goes all the way back to Israel, not just since Christ, but even Israel understood that sexuality was good, that it was given by God. And most of all, Israel understood when it knew God's command, do not fornicate, it understood that it wasn't a negative, that it wasn't just an arbitrary command from God, but that it was a way of life. It was a way of saying that intercourse meant something about forever love. And so you and I, and we Westerners sometimes, we miss these long memories. We're quick to jump on bandwagons. But when you think of it, even the church adds an added dimension. It adds the idea that sexuality is a sacrament of God's love, that sexuality even reflects God's love, that when a man holds a woman and a woman holds a man, they're even saying, I love you forever, and we reflect God's love for us forever, God's love for His people forever. We could never unfold all the implications of this vision here. But one thing, we do know that it's a difficult vision for our time. We really have to be compassionate when you realize all the things that people are under. But we have to keep the vision somehow, too. It's a vision not only of how to say no, but why to say no. Most of all, it's a way of saying a deeper yes. A yes to a concrete love forever, a yes to even God's love for us forever. I think that's something we can retrieve at this time from our great Christian tradition.
To be comfortable with ourselves and with each other, normalcy is what Father Meehan teaches us mostly, I think, because that's how we have God's love expressed for us.
We hope you'll stay comfortable and stay right where you are. We've got a lot more to show you.
The apparitions of Our Lady of Guadalupe began here, on top of Tepeyac Hill in Mexico City. In December of 1531, the Blessed Virgin appeared to Juan Diego.
To become legal residents On his recent visit to the United States, Pope John Paul II urged all persons to help the undocumented immigrant to obtain legal residence. Across the U.S., Catholic programs offer assistance in applying for legalization. But time is growing short. If you or someone you know may qualify, call to get help and information. Legalization Program, Immigration and Refugee Services, Archdiocese of Philadelphia and Diocese of Camden.
We welcome your comments and suggestions and encourage you to write to us at Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, Room 907, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103, or call us during regular business hours at 215-668-9842.
One of the things I always enjoy about Reel to Reel is the diversity we get into. We go from something tonight, like today in this program, from prayer power to counterculture and cultures into human sexuality. How do you put this all together, Father Joe?
Oh, sure, you leave it up to me to put it all together. I do think, though, Monsignor, we have always in Mary a common denominator for so much that's in the Christian life. The different subjects we've touched on tonight, I think the general example of her witness of how to be a Christian tonight, to kind of link it together in the spiritual, to ground it in our example of Christian ministry and witness. We'll take a special look at Our Lady of Guadalupe and the people of Mexico.
The apparitions of Our Lady of Guadalupe began here, on top of Tepeyac Hill in Mexico City. In December of 1531, the Blessed Virgin appeared to Juan Diego, a Mexican Indian. Daniel Ojeda leads many tours to this shrine, which he says represents the Mexican people's conversion to Christianity. That was a time when the Mexicans were living under Spanish rule.
When the Lady Virgin Mary appeared to Juan Diego, she wanted him first to see at her as the Mother of God, and told him, look at me, I look as the Indian people, I have that dark skin, and I will be here in charge of the sorrows and pains of youth people, the Indian people. And she wanted to be, let's say, the mother of all the Indian nation in our country.
The Mother of God asked Juan Diego to go to the local bishop with a special request.
And he used to call Virgin Mary the little girl, muchachita. Then he said, the little girl, beautiful girl, asked me to tell you that she is the truly Mother of God, Christ. And she wants to have a chapel built on her honor on that place, where she is going to take care of the Indian people.
The bishop then requested proof that the Blessed Virgin did indeed appear to Juan. Finally, Our Lady told Juan to climb to the top of Tepeyac Hill and pick roses to give to the bishop as a sign.
So he went up to the hill, found the roses, which is one of the first miracles because nobody grows roses in December, unless the all way up on top of the hill that is a rocky hill, solid rock. He came down with the flowers and showed the flowers to the lady, and the lady blessed the flowers and told him, now you go and see the bishop, and this is the proof of my apparition after you. Anyway, he went to the church, and being there in the church, waiting for some time, the priest finally accepted to see him, and Juan Diego right away extended his mantle, and the roses fell on the floor, and it appeared imprinted on the Indian mantle, the beautiful image of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Several churches near the site of the apparitions have housed the beautiful image of Our Lady. A new basilica was built several years ago and attracts millions of pilgrims yearly. Many people crawl on their knees from the entrance of the grounds to the main altar of the shrine. Behind the altar hangs the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe as it originally appeared on Juan Diego's mantle. Next to the new basilica sits an old basilica built in the 1600s. Because the church was built right on the edge of a lake, the foundation began to sink and the walls began to crack. The Mexican government had intended to tear down the basilica, repair the foundation, and rebuild it again.
But the Mexican people felt that it was not right. They should leave the church in the way it is and build a new one. So that is why the new church. The old church, as you notice, was beautiful and different. It has mostly the European and neoclassic styles and all that.
Dedication to Our Lady of Guadalupe goes beyond the Mexican border, as Mary is patroness of all the Americas. Many North Americans are drawn to the shrine to honor the Blessed Virgin and to ask for her intercession.
Now we very proud say that Our Lady of Guadalupe is growing, faith is growing a lot in the United States. We felt surprised to see so many Americans and Canadians coming to visit Our Lady of Guadalupe. But now we have learned that you have lots of those groups of Roman Catholic people that they also have the advocation of Guadalupe Virgin. And we really are surprised of that, and we love that, we like it. The devotion, as you know, is something you have to feel in your heart. It's nothing that you can learn just like that. And devotion of our people to Our Lady of Guadalupe has helped our country in many ways. In many ways. So the devotion is to love her. Because loving her, we can take the things as they come. We know that is the God will. We know that Virgin Mary will help us somehow. And it's the way we feel.
I guess each one of us has a special highlight in every program. My highlight on this program is the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart. They are Mother Cabrini sisters, with whom I was first stationed in 1942.
And you have Cabrini connections all over. Your parish is St. Francis Cabrini, right?
In Fairless Hills, and I insist that's the E.S. Francis. Most people will insist on I.S. She is a great woman. We have some great things to tell you about for next week. Father Dan Murray will be back to talk about some special insight into Scripture in Gehenna, and also Dr. Fitzgibbons to talk to us about stress.
I'll be interviewing Linda Seguina, who's the president of the Catholic Fellowship for Adults, and also a real special look, I know you'll enjoy, into the life of Raleigh Massimino. He's traveled the whole circuit from the lows to the highs in his career as coach of Villanova Wildcats. We're going to see how off the court his faith has really helped him on the journey.
Until then, goodbye and God bless you.
Good night. See you next week.
Travel arrangements for reel-to-reel by Atkinson and Mullen Travel of Media, PA. Phone area 215-565-7070.